share with Marshita, based on, we uncovered the beginning of her hidden story, and I know that this is just the beginning, but I have a glimpse into who you are. And so what I'm gonna do now is share that, who I hear you to be, Marshita. And I know she mentioned she'd like to share it with you. So that is amazing. Before I do, I just take a deep breath so that I can ground myself, and then I'm going to share that, okay? Marshita, who I hear you to be is you are somebody that loves people, genuinely loves people. You see their potential that's within them, and you see it when they don't see it themselves. In fact, not only do you see it, you see their superpower. You see who they are and who they could be, and you help them to see it. You're passionate about this because you understand that when people step into that, there's more going on than what they know. You understand that each and every person has a divine gift. It's a gift that's given from God. And when they can step into that, they live the divinity that's within them. You do that because you are so passionate about the work that you do. And when you do the work, you do it in many different ways, whether it's corporate or individual, but the way that you do the work is very similar. You get them to be clear about themselves, to start with them, which many leaders don't. You start with them, and then you go back to their why and the tools that help them to embody that superpower. You give them the strategies and tools to be able to make it happen. And not only to make it happen so they can feel better about themselves, which is great in and of itself, but to make it happen so they can transform the world through their business. You do that by a few different ways. One, by helping them to build a business, even from scratch, and by giving them the tools that will allow them to be successful in doing that, but also in making a social impact. You understand from your experience that when they can step into that divinity of it not just being about them, but about the impact that they're going to create in the world, and that social aspect, that's what fuels their passion, and that's what fuels their success as well. How you do the work is very different than what anybody else does. One, you believe in the power of the divinity, and that is where you start from. You start from that connection with yourself and the spirit, and you empower that, whether you're in the corporate world or individually. You help them to add value, and then you help them to really connect with love, spirit, forgiveness, and to step into that. Because you know that when they can step into that, that's when they can be a good leader. That when they're in a place of scarcity in their mindset, or not being forgiving, or they're not truly loving the people that they're working with, they cannot be empowered, and that light of God cannot shine within them. So you help them to be unleashed in that way. You decided to do this work for a number of different reasons. One, you didn't decide it, you were chosen, which is so clear. And you did it because it was a time when you had to. You know, you were in this environment where you ran a whole bunch of events, and they said, hey, you should teach us how to run events. And you're like, but I'm not a trainer. And they said, yes, you are. You just don't know it yet. And so you were pushed to stretch yourself beyond that comfort zone. And you understand what that's like, to be pushed by the divine to like get outside your comfort zone. But you saw that when you were teaching those events, that it wasn't just about the pretty room or the pretty makeup and all of that stuff. If they on the inside weren't set to connect, have a connection with the spirit, then they could not have the impact that they could have. And that's why you shifted the work that you do to help them on the inside first, and then amplify it outside. One of the reasons too that you're so passionate about this work is because there was a moment in time where you faced one of the scariest things a family could possibly face. You faced the fear of being homeless. You know, your husband had lost his job. You were in a place where you guys needed to make it work. And so you looked at what resources you had and you made it work. You created a business, and within 2 weeks you had an apartment. You had all the things that you needed to not be homeless, to be empowered. And I think that experience has given you empathy for people that feel like they don't have hope. People that feel like, but Marshita, I've lost everything. Marshita, I'm worried I'm going to lose everything. That's why you have that empathy for them. Your highest value is trust. And that really means being able to trust the people that are around you, which sometimes is hard to do. Although, and trusting in yourself, which sometimes can be hard to do. But I think that that's what makes you an incredible leader, because you have that empathy for people, because we all don't trust ourselves at times. And we all feel like, can I really trust others? And you understand what that's like. Now, one of the things, when we tied back to your story when you were a child, and there's two stories that are really impactful, and I know that there's more, but these stories are pivotal. One is the moment that you were that sweet little girl, you were 4 years old and you got dropped off for that emergency childcare, really. You're in this school, you don't speak the language, everybody's new. 4 years old is a really tender age. And the teachers started not speaking to you in a way you could understand. And I can't, as you're describing that story, I'm imagining that you felt alone and you felt overwhelmed. And on top of that, you also weren't able to have a nap at the time the other kids had a nap on the mattresses. You had to stand up. Like, there's a lot of shame and humiliation in that. And so you understand what it's like to feel like an outcast. You understand also what it's like to let go of that and forgive that. But you have compassion for people around, and you're able to forgive, and you know how important it is because you know the difference it's made in your business. On top of that, there was a moment that you were a sweet little girl in grade 1, and you felt like that. I imagine that feeling came back where you're like, these are all strangers, and what am I doing here again? And oh my gosh. And then there was this awesome little kid, Nadia, that had love and compassion for you. And she came up to you and respect. And she came up to you and she said, Marshita, don't cry. I'm going to be your friend and it's okay. And she stood by your side and she helped you to feel safe, to the point that you're like, you could come out of your shell and you could become that popular kid, which really meant you just had impact in your school. So when we tie it all together, all of these pieces, all of these stories, I believe that you do the work that you do because you understand what it's like to be alone. You understand what it's like to feel like an outcast. You understand what it's like to lose everything. You understand what it's like to be afraid. You also know what it's like to have the grace of the divine in your life to take you places that you never thought you could go. And you know what that grace feels like, and you know what it's like to step into that, and you help others to see it, to feel it, and to step into it because you want to make the world a better place. And I think that's why you do the work that you do. Did I understand you right?
Amazing.